Hi everyone, I welcome you all to yet another video on my channel. Today we are going to understand how the integration architecture is established, or in simple words, how a connection is established between Python pandas and any SQL database. In the last video we learnt about data cleaning, how a messy data is converted into clean data so that further analysis can be performed. And let me tell you one thing, in the real world, when actual data analysts work on company data, the data is more messier. It is more difficult to clean. This is just done on a very small scale. But don't worry, we are going to see how company level data is cleaned in our further videos. But today we shall continue with the previous video, and this is the second part of doing data analysis of my sample project. In this part, we are going to understand in very simple words how we send our cleaned data to an SQL database. If I talk, let's say, from the standpoint of MS SQL, whenever you have solved SQL queries on MS SQL, what do? You import flat file through the export import wizard of MS SQL, and then you perform your queries, right? But in pandas, when we cleaned our data and when we export it, it is not required that we again open the SQL Server Management Studio, then we go to the import export wizard, and then we import the flat file. And you all know how difficult it is to import bulk files, right? I think to import even 4 files, you can't do it at once. You have to do it one by one, which makes it very difficult. But Python Pandas has made it easier for us to export the data directly into the SQL database and perform our data analysis. Now, let's understand how this architecture is established. In very simple words, to connect Python pandas with MS SQL, a connection has to be established which is not direct. Okay, there are a lot of things involved. For example, there are DB drivers, there is SQLAlchemy, there is ports and IP address, and much more about it. Okay, we are going to learn everything in detail. For this, I have already made a mind map. If you guys want this, please comment and I will surely share this mind map. I made this mind map using Notebook LM. So guys, it is high time to use AI in your learning process as well. I will tell you, it took me just less than 5 minutes to make this beautiful mind map. Although you may not call it beautiful, but it is close enough for anyone to make it understand, to make someone understand about the connection establishment between Python pandas and MS SQL database. Okay, so as you know, I solved my SQL questions on MS SQL. So in this video, I will specifically talk about MS SQL connection. If you use any other database, then I highly suggest to watch this video till the end, because the process is the same, only the codes and the texts which are written are different, which I will talk about later in the video. But still, the basic fundamentals are still the same. Now let's go into it. To establish the connection between Python pandas and MS SQL, there are four components. First, we develop the architecture. Then we see how the architecture is developed, what are the components that are required to link these two. Then we understand how the execution flows, how this data flows from Python pandas through the architecture that we make, and then to the relational database, and then some common errors that may happen when you are doing this. For the architecture layer, we have 5 parts. First, pandas, the Python pandas, which is the main thing. To export your data from Python to a relational database, Python pandas has to be imported. It is a very powerful library, as we all know, and it not only does the work of manipulation, rather when working with databases, pandas also handle the connection, the authentication, and the SQL execution logic by itself, instead of relying on something else. Okay, now if we see, then these are the functions. We do data manipulation. There's a read SQL function which I will show while writing the code, and then this data frame, then the data frame that we have is converted into a table and then sent into the relational database. Now the main problem that comes here is Python pandas cannot directly talk with MS SQL Server. By this I mean, I would like to take an example to explain this. Okay, for example, you are a tourist guide and you are you have two families with you, and you all of you are visiting Thailand. Okay, one family is from the US, they only speak English, and one family is, let's say, from India, and they only speak in Hindi. Okay, they do not know anything about English, and unfortunately you are a guy who only speaks French. You are from France. Okay, now you neither understand English nor understand Hindi, and at the same time both the parties do not understand each other's language. In this case, what you will do, I know this may sound very hypothetical and very unimaginable, but yeah, this may occur, right? It is possible to happen. Now what happens is, since you need to talk to both the parties, and at the same time both the parties also need to talk to each other, you need to hire a translator. You need to hire someone who can convert all the three languages and explain. For example, if the family from the US wants to tell something to the Indian family, then there has to be a guy in the middle to translate and interpret whatever the US family is saying, right? And similarly, if Indian family want to talk with the US family, or you want to talk with either of them, okay. Now, to do this, now we have four people in our story, right? The two families. Take one family as your Python Pandas, another family as your SQL database. Now, the third party, which is the tourist guide, which is you, is the person who brought these two families together on a trip, right? Otherwise, like, they could have come alone, but that's a different thing. But still, you managed to bring these two people together on board, and all of you are visiting Thailand. Now, this is the work of SQLAlchemy. What does SQLAlchemy do? It is, first of all, I will explain what it is. It is a powerful SQL toolkit and an ORM. And ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper. We do not have to get into the details of it. It is just a way of establishing connection between any relational database and an OOP language, object-oriented programming language. Okay, here our OOP language is Python, and the relational database we are using is MS SQL. And in most analytics workflows, it helps in establishing a connection and an engine manager rather than a full ORM, because ORM is a huge software and SQLAlchemy is just a small part of it, but still it is really powerful. Okay, and it provides a standardized interface so that Python code does not have to worry about the database specific details. Okay, now coming back, the SQLAlchemy acts as a connection manager. Okay, just like the tourist guide connects the Indian family and the US family, these two, in the same way, SQLAlchemy connects the databases. Okay, it creates an engine and establishes the integration between these two. Now, here comes the fourth party, which is the translator. SQLAlchemy can only establish the connection, but the actual transference of database can only be done by a DB driver. If we go back to our example of the tourist guide, here the translator is the only person who can talk among the three parties, which is the US family, the Indian family, and you, the tourist guide. Okay, now only the translator has that ability. In the same way, DB drivers or database drivers are the only component of this integration architecture who can talk between the Python Pandas and SQL databases. Okay, in very simple languages, Python uses these DB drivers to talk with SQL database. Okay, just like how you regularly you talk to in your regular lifestyle, in the same manner. Okay, there are various drivers for various various relational databases, and the one which is used by MS SQL is called pyodbc. PYODBC. Okay, this is the driver name. Now there is another exception to MS SQL Server. You need two drivers. First, this pyodbc driver, the DB driver or the DBAPI driver, and another driver that you need is this ODBC. This ODBC driver has to be downloaded separately from any search engine, from Microsoft.com actually, and this has to be it has to be downloaded separately. It is not generally available pre-installed in your computer, so you can download it separately if you're working on MS SQL. For other SQL databases, ODBC driver is not required, or rather any other driver is not required other than the DB driver. Okay, so this ODBC driver has certain features to it. For example, it helps in the OS level installation, it establishes the network communication, and helps in the implementation of encryption. Okay, why? Because establishing connections is something that has to be done very securely. If the security is not maintained, then, like, if we think on a very large scale, if on a company level scale, then hackers might get through the data and secure and extract very important and sensitive data from the company, which may prove devastating for the companies. Okay, then you have the SQL Server engine, which is like a part of the component but not required to be explained. Now, this is the architecture. We need these things for these are the layers for architecture. First, we do the Pandas thing, then we call the SQLAlchemy, then the DB driver is called, the ODBC driver is established, and then the architecture is formed. Now, if we see the connection components, there are certain things. First is the connection string. This connection string is usually huge, and we will write this connection string right now in our code when we will establish the connection. This is basically the parts of how the connection is established. Okay, first is the dialect. Since I am using MS SQL Server, my dialect is MS SQL. For MySQL, it is MySQL. Similarly for PostgreSQL and so on. Okay, driver name we have already talked about, which is pyodbc for the DB driver, and another driver called ODBC has also to be installed. Then there are server and DB credentials, which are not that important. Okay, yes, which we will see while establishing the connection string. Now, this is very important part, authentication. Authentication is important again, just like if we look at the examples that we saw of, hackers getting into the data of companies, it becomes a very sensitive issue, right? So authentication means to ensure that the data that is being transferred is correct, there is no such errors or any flow of, let's say, viruses into the databases. Okay, coming back, yes. Now for the security, like these are just strings that are written to establish secure connections that I will talk about when we will write the codes. Now let's look at the execution flow. First, the Pandas request the database to establish a connection. SQLAlchemy does the process of establishing these two things. Now, to talk between these two databases, the DB driver comes, the ODBC driver comes, then authentication and security is established. Then the SQL execution is done, and SQL query is run in the Python Pandas, and the SQL execution is done in Python Pandas, and a data frame is called, and then we are able to load that data frame in our Jupyter notebook. Okay. Here are some common errors that can occur that I would like to make a mention about. For example, at times driver may not be found. For example, in case of ODBC driver, if you mention in the string, but it is not installed in your PC or your computer, then it will cause an error. Make sure before you are establishing the connection, you have already installed the latest version of the ODBC driver. It is very easy to install. You can just go to Microsoft.com and search the ODBC driver, the latest version, and just download it, install it, and then you can use it. Okay. There are several other errors, like for example, login can fail. You do not have certificate errors. For example, if you do not establish valid authentication, then this error can show, or if there is some kind of network timeouts. Okay. And with this we actually complete our understanding of the integration architecture. This is all whatever is required. After that, there are two important things actually left, which are ports and IP addresses, which I will talk about while we are establishing the string. Okay. Now I would like to come back to our Jupyter notebook and first look at all the data sets that we had cleaned yesterday, and I will not print it. I am just writing it for the sake of remembering that what all data sets we had. and then I will write the connection string and the codes for establishing the connection and sending our data frame to an SQL database. Okay. Now we had df lang, we had df count for countries, we had df lang for languages, we had currencies, and which we have stored in df.curr, and then we had city. Okay, I'm not printing any of these. I'm just writing for to make you understand or remind you that we had these 4 datasets. Now, first we need to import pandas, obviously, because that is the basic thing. And the next thing that we need to do, if you remember, was to call SQLAlchemy to establish the connection between these two, between Python pandas and SQL database. Now, the connection is established by creating an engine. An engine is just a connection string, that's it, in very simple languages. First, we will import the engine, create engine function from SQLAlchemy. Then we will write our connection string. Then with that engine, we will call an SQL query, and after calling that SQL query, we will have a data frame with which we can perform our operations. To import that create engine function, we use from SQLAlchemy import create engine. Now we write our function. Okay, I will name it as engine itself only. Engine equal to create engine. Okay. Now you have to keep the double quotes here, I guess, not single quotes. Okay. Now what was the process? We had Python pandas are imported. We have called SQLAlchemy. Now the third was to call the DB drivers. Okay. And in MS SQL you have to call a separate driver called ODBC driver. Okay. Now, if you remember, the dialect was, we had talked about here the dialect, right? The dialect was MS SQL. So I will write here the dialect, which is MS SQL, plus the driver name, which is pyodbc, and then a connection string, sorry, not a connection string, but a string connector. Okay, these two are different things. Here we connect the string like this. Now, another important part. What happens is, now this driver will search the server and find to which server the database has to be connected. Now, what is server? I would like to talk about it. A server is just a huge software which provides you a lot of services. Okay, for example, your laptop is a server. How? From your laptop you can access the internet, you can use any search engine to find any kind of information, you can send emails, you can play games, you can write documents, or create databases, perform SQL queries. So all these services are done on a particular machine, and the software used is called a server. Okay, now your computer is a huge server. For each server, like I would like to take another analogy to explain this. For example, you are a delivery driver and you have to deliver some goods to a certain room in a huge building. Okay, now you have the address. Okay, the address generally contains the city name, then the area name, locality name, road name, something like that, and then the building name, then the room number. Okay, for example, if I say that my building is at road ABC, the building name is XYZ, and my room number is 123. Okay, so you will go to that road, that particular building, and that room, and then you will deliver my ordered products. Okay, now the driver does the same thing. Here, the driver does the same thing here also. Here the driver is the delivery partner. He searches the entire server. Like, instead of searching the entire city, all the roads, all the buildings, he has the address. We have to give the DB driver the particular address from where he can find the SQL database. Okay. And here we come to understand the idea about IP addresses and ports. Okay, if I connect this with the delivery and the building analogy, then Your IP address is the building and the port is the specific room. Okay. For example, to our entire computer, the entire server can be denoted using an IP address. Okay, we have different IP addresses. For example, for computer, I guess it is for your local PC, I guess it is 127.0.0.1 something like that. Or for Google Chrome, we have 192 point something like that. And there are specific ports. Even for example, if you have run your Jupyter notebook, you must have seen that the first window, which is the home window or the home tab that opens, it is written localhost 8888. So in the port number 8888, your Jupyter notebook is present and it is accessing that and it is accessed through that port only. So in the same way, we give the DB driver the information to which IP address and which particular port he has to go to, so that the SQL database is connected. Mind you that SQL database is not all over your server. It is present at only one singular port of your PC, which can be accessed by giving the port number and IP address of the PC. But since we are working on our own PC only, we do not have to mention the exact IP address and ports. This becomes important when you are working on let's say on a company data set, because for a company the data is huge data is generated, right? And for that there are certain IP addresses and ports at which their SQL databases are kept. But in our PC it is there in exactly one IP address and one port. So for that we can just directly write localhost or @localhost, which is basically by writing localhost, I am just trying to say to the engine that the SQL database is present at its own IP address and port. It is not present at a different IP address or a port. So you don't need to worry. You can just extract it from the local IP address and the port. Okay. Localhost. Then we will add another string connector, and this time it is slanting brackets, but on a different side, obliques, on the reverse obliques, some people call it. Now we mention our database name. Okay, now what happens is you have your MS SQL, right? But in MS SQL you have multiple databases. Okay, for that you have to mention your specific database in which you want to transfer your data. One thing here is important, that you should never establish the connection with an already made database or a system made database. For example, if you open your MS SQL Server and go on the database section, then initially there are certain databases like master or tempo, something like that. You should never establish the connection to these databases, as these may cause certain errors that we had talked about initially in our video. Okay, for that we will choose our custom made database, and for MS SQL generally the database name starts with SQL Express. You must have seen that, right? Like whenever you start your SQL Server Management Studio, a window opens which shows your database name plus an oblique, then SQL Express is written, right? You do not have to mention your database name. For example, for my PC, my database name is Ayush. It is not necessary to mention Ayush because I have already mentioned the IP address and localhost here. Okay. Now my database name is Pandas Study, which I had already created. I would suggest you to custom make a database before proceeding further if you do not have one. Okay. Now I have mentioned this database. Now, if you remember then that we had talked about two drivers. One was the pyodbc driver and another was the ODBC driver, which is specific to the MS SQL. Now we will call that driver. For that, there's a long string which I have already written and that I would like to just copy and paste it. Here it is. There would be one question mark only. Yes. We just mention the driver and we write the ODBC driver 18 for SQL Server, and then we add the plus sign in between the spaces. And this is important to note that the latest version that I have downloaded is 18. It can be something else also, but as of my knowledge, it is 18 currently. Okay. Then the last parts that we'll mention are establishing the authentication and validating it and establishing the security. Okay. If I would go back here. Here, this encryption implementation and uh, Windows authentication are two things that we need to do right now. For this, we write two things. First is we create a trusted connection and then we establish a trusted server certificate. Okay, I will zoom it here so that you guys can see. We first write an and, then we write trusted connection. Yes, okay, trusted connection is equal to yes, and then we write a trust server certificate. Okay, where ampersand sign, trust server. I hope it is visible. Okay, what I would do is I shall bring it in the next line. Okay, trust server certificate, and we will write it as yes. Okay, now with this we complete our connection string. Okay, we have stored this connection string in the engine variable using the create engine function. Now for any time we either write a SQL query or bring a database from SQL to Pandas or vice versa, we will always use this connection engine. Okay, now if I run this, okay, it is showing some error. Undetermined string literal line 3. Okay, let me check. Panda study driver equal to this. I guess it is because of this, right? I if I'll do this and I will run it again. Yes, now it works. Wait, not yes, now it works. I guess the space was not allowing it, and I hope you guys are able to see this. I will zoom it and show you here. Okay. Now half part is done. The rest part is really easy right now. We just have to call the database from an SQL query. Okay. Now I will write query equal to, I will write an SQL query here only. Select star from, actually I have already uploaded these data sets in my during my practice, so I will call the clean dataset only. Okay, for example, I will do select star from cities. Okay, because cities is already a dataset available in this database of mine. Okay, from cities, and now I will establish the connection. I will send this SQL query through the connection. I will write a database. This is a dataset, a data frame named dfSQL. You can write anything, right? Like I'm just using for easier use case. I will write read SQL, just like we do read CSV, we will do read SQL here. Then we will write whatever the query it is. This is our query. You can directly write it, no problem, but it makes the code look clean. And then we will establish the connection through which connection we want this query to be run. This is the engine connection, right? We will write con equal to engine. Got it. Now if I run this again, let's see what happens. Okay, it is now completed. Now if we do df SQL dot head, I will do, let's say, head only, then you can see the data is here. Okay, now if you have any doubts, let's say, like it may be possible that data set is not in the database, or I'm just trying to do some gimmicks here, then I will import another data set. For example, let's say I have another data set in the database named full orders. I remember this. Now if I run this and then I run this again, then you can see in df underscore SQL we have another data set. Okay, we have not worked on this data set till now, but it was just in my database, and by calling this I wanted to show that we have successfully established a connection. Okay, now I would like to reset it. Okay, or rather not required. Okay, full orders. Okay, now with this we have extracted the data set from SQL database to Pandas. We have called a data set from it. Now in the similar way we can send our data set to the SQL database. Okay, now for that what we need to do is we would do the pd.readSQL function. Okay, sorry, not pd.readSQL. we will do, okay, before sending the data set to MS SQL, we can also do one important thing here, that if you want to run your SQL queries right here itself and not going to your SQL Server Management Studio, you can just run your queries here itself only. Okay, now we have a function for it which is called as pd.readsql. Now if I do this pd.readsql, now here I will do the same thing as I did here. Okay, exactly the same thing. I will write my query here and I will establish through which connection this query has to be run. Okay, for example, I will write a simple query like select count. Okay, I will have to do it in double quotes. Select count count as, let's say, name it as row count from full orders, right? Okay, our database name is full orders, and then connection in this con equal to engine. Okay, now if I run this, we can see that the SQL query is run and we have got the direct output as row count is equal to 50. Okay, now we have done two things. First, we have called the dataset from the database to our Python pandas. Then I showed you that how we can run our SQL queries here only. We do not have to open our database IDE to run it. We can run it from here itself only. Now the last thing that we will do is to send our dataset from pandas to SQL database. Okay, now for example, I want to send this data. Okay, like for example, I want to send df underscore city. Now just like we do pd.readsql or pd.readcsv, to send to SQL we have df.toSQL, df.toSQL. Okay, now in this what we do, first of all we mention the name of our dataset. In this case we have df city, I guess. Yes, it is df city. And then we establish a connection engine through which connection string the data set from Python Panda should go to SQL database. Then we do two other things that I will show you right now, like in the same function itself. So first we will write the dataset name by giving name equal to df city. Okay, now the connection engine is con equal to engine. Now there are two things. First, in pandas, if you have seen, like let's say in this database, what does pandas do is it already creates a inbuilt index. You can see this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is not the index already present in the dataset, but it is a feature of pandas that it creates an index of its own and it shows you. Now at times you do not want this index to be present in our original dataset or on whatever dataset we are trying to do our analysis. For this we write a function called index equal to false. Okay, now with this we will not see this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 wala index. Okay, at last we do one more thing, that there are possibilities that this table is, or a table with this name is already present in your database. For that what we will do is we will perform a function, we will write a function which is if exists, like if this table already exists then we would want it to get replaced. Okay, there are two functions for it, replace and append. Okay, replace means to just remove the old table and send this new table, and append means to already add the new dataset in the originally present dataset. Okay, but we do not want to append it, we would rather replace it. Okay, now we have successfully, now we have not run this till now, let's run it. And okay, I'm sorry, it should not be df, it should be df _city, right? I have to write the city name here, and then here I will write the dataset name that I want, city cleaned. Okay, now if I run this, again it is showing an error. Okay, I will check, let me see what is the problem. Okay, I found the error. What happened is I forgot that in Jupyter Notebook the execution is done cell by cell, and since I had already closed the Jupyter Notebook, the initial cells have not been executed, which means that I do not have anything in this data frame df city. For that I will run certain cells, and then we will get our clean data set. Okay, I will have to run this, I will have to run this to check. Now we have dfct. Now I will show you the cleaned part, which is this one. Here I had cleaned it here as well. Okay, now for the just to check it, I will run this function dfct.head, just to make sure that yes, now we have our clean data set. Now this should run. Okay, now if I do this, it is running. Let's see what will happen. Boom, we have securely loaded our data set here. If a number shows here, it means that this is the number of rows basically in this data frame, and this now shows that we have successfully established, or rather sent our data set from Python Pandas to our SQL database. I will now run my SQL Server Management Studio to show you that this has actually happened. Okay, now if I will go and search here SQL Server Management Studio, I guess this might not be visible because I'm using OBS and only, you can record only one part of the screen here, right? Okay, I successfully started or loaded the SSMS. Now if I will go to my databases, I had uploaded it in Panda study, right? Now if I go to Panda study, I hope it is visible. Yes, I cannot zoom in, I'm sorry, but you can see on the left hand side pane, there is a drop down list of first databases. Then I opened the Panda study database. Now if I see the tables, here I will see that city clean, this one is the database that we had sent from our Python Pandas to our MS SQL. Now if I will run a new query here to show you that we have successfully called our dataset. If I do select star from city cleaned, then I will run it. Here you can see is the entire dataset that we had sent from Python Pandas to our SQL database. Okay, now with this we complete this long video of explaining how we established the connection between Python Pandas and MS SQL. We understood the integration architecture, about how authentication is done, how connection is made. Like, if I summarize it, then first of all that we learned here were first the architecture layers, the Pandas, SQLAlchemy, DB drivers, ODBC driver specific to MS SQL. Then we learned how the connection components, right? How the connection string is written, how authentication is done, how security is established through trust server certificate and trusted connection functions. Then we learned the execution flow. Then we learned the three functions, that how we can call a data, how we can write an SQL query in Jupyter Notebook itself, and then how we can send our data set to our database. Okay, so with this I complete this video, and I hope that you liked this video. There were lots of breaks and cuts in the between. I'm very sorry for it, because I'm just starting to record my videos, right? And there are times, and I'm just a beginner, and there are times I forget what I want to speak, what I want to show you. So with this, the video has come to an end. Thank you so much if you like this video, and I would continue to make sure that I upload my videos regularly, as regular as possible. And that's all for today. Thank you.